Welcome to the All Pop No Culture Podcast. I'm your host this week, Opie, and I'm joined as always by Kevin.
Hello.
David.
Hello.
Alex.
Hi.
And Pete.
Howdy.
If you're new to the show, we are a pop culture centered podcast that talks about movies and television and sometimes video games on stuff to watch or avoid. And then we'll also be discussing the latest episode of Loki. So if you have not seen Loki, spoilers ahead, along with the movie Black Widow, which I believe we've all seen, yes?
Yes.
So we'll be talking about Black Widow, so spoilers ahead on that one as well. And finally, the only topic on the docket will also be the last season/series or season finale of Mythic Quest on Apple TV Plus. Why don't we start off with Mythic Quest? Only because we can link Loki and Black Widow together.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't remember, other than you guys mentioning that you'd watched Mythic Quest and kind of just gave your general impressions of how you thought the season was going thus far without really mentioning anything. Do we want to take the opportunity now to kind of really look at the whole season, or do we want to just talk about the season finale?
Whatever you guys want. Spoilers ahead, one way or the other.
Why don't we just hit the finale, because we got a lot to cover. And then
I think if we talk about the finale, we'll probably talk a little bit about the
earlier episodes.
Yeah,
just organically.
So, Kevin, why don't you go ahead and start with your thoughts on that?
I mean, I it's been a couple weeks, so I don't remember the entirety of the episode, but what I do remember is that I just fucking loved the ending. Really starting with that, and maybe it started before that, but that walk down the hallway with the old dude,
CW.
CW.
Yeah.
And they're talking about, oh, this is when I created this is when I did this, and just kind of their revelation that they're fucking done. And then they go quit basically.
Yeah.
And then just that last scene in the little
Mexican
diner or restaurant wherever they are,
Casa
was
Vega.
really cool. Yeah, and how he's kind of passing the torch and saying, this what we do next is yours. Let's do your thing. And it seems like a really interesting change of character for him, because he's always been the guy.
Yeah.
And he's openly choosing to not be the guy.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, only because I watched the entire season this last week.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't one thing I probably should have done, probably will do, is I should watch the first season again to kind of get a sense of who his character is, because I had a general sense what I remember what it was, but between that and the web episode and then the random last episode of the last season that came out, in this season I thought his character was pretty consistent in terms of he always made it about just doing something worthwhile, and regardless of how he presented it. So I thought that was pretty consistent. And in that last episode, like you were just talking about, I was like, no, he's basically doing what he wants to do. It's just, it just happens to be benefiting somebody else or appear that way.
Yeah, that's true.
So sorry.
Yeah, I have a feeling he'll slip back into his old ways.
Yeah, I imagine
they start doing whatever they're doing.
Well, no,
but I mean, he kind of has.
That's going to be that play for.
Yeah,
it's going to be the third season play, though. Is Poppy now in charge with her vision, but Ian trying to do it, because she's still in charge of all the coders and he's still creath guy.
Well, he also has the gravitas.
I mean, they showed, and they showed in the season too, just how much he gets done around him just by being himself.
Yeah,
the things that she couldn't get people to do, or she struggled to get people to do, because he's been himself for so long, right? That everyone around him just kind of gravitates to him as he is.
Yeah, they accept it, and his charisma is basically his greatest weapon. Like technically, he can't really do too much, but he just inspires everyone around him to do.
Yeah, I thought they made Poppy more of an unlikable character this season, though, and I didn't really care that she got what she wanted at the end by that point, because she just seems so terrible. I
mentioned this after the first season. I've never really liked Poppy in general.
Yeah,
I don't remember. I mean, I remember I don't remember disliking her at the end of the last season. I don't remember disliking any particular character at the end of the last season. So I was a little bit more surprised to see that this was her character again. Why I wanted to go back and watch the first season again.
I think Ian rubs off on her a little bit, so she's a little bit more
high-headed and him in this season.
Yeah.
But it's also her goal too, right? Is to be more like him.
Yeah,
because she sees what he inspires, and she knows that she doesn't inspire that, and so she thinks like, oh, I'll just be that, but it doesn't work for her because she's not that. Like, so it's an interesting dynamic for sure.
They have that whole episode where she goes to the feminist thing and she does her whole speech and all that. And at the very end, he's like, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to have happen. Like he manipulated the whole damn thing. It was fantastic.
That was pretty funny.
Because he doesn't always come across as particularly intelligent, right? Like a lot of times he comes off a little goofy or whatever, but he has his moments where he's just masterminding shit,
He's one of those eccentric geniuses where you're never quite sure what he's doing.
He just knows people.
Yeah.
He knows how to push people's buttons. He knows where to apply pressure. How to, he's just one of those people that like that. I think they're trying to almost make him a little like Steve Jobs-esque. From what we've seen of movies of him with that, where he's very much like, he does know some of the technical side of things, but it is like you were saying, it's his world where he manipulates people into doing what he wants them to do, but just being who he is.
Yeah.
And Poppy it just becomes a tyrant when she tries to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't think she was, for me, she wasn't so much unlikable as it was the side of her that came out, this super competitive streak, as she was wanting to kind of do her own thing and branch off, that just kind of made her an asshole. Like she was better first season to me.
All right. So last episode, I think, David Hornsby, plays David on the show, the CEO. Thought he was solid throughout the entire season. He I don't know, his line delivery, and I've always liked him from It's Always Sunny to this. I mean, he just he buys into his character all the way. That's what.
Oh yeah.
So he plays it so well. So he was great. I'm not a big fan of Danny Pudi, who plays Brad, the accountant.
Yeah.
In general, I didn't like Community, and in this, I liked him more this season than I think I did last season. He's definitely the show's villain, or and it took a minute for me to accept the reality of how these people talk and act like around each other in the office. I'm like, everybody be fucking fired. I mean, the fact that David is the CEO, and the way that what's her face, Joe talked, just that kind of stuff. So once it took me like about an episode and a half to kind of like, okay, that's just how the reality is. Now I can watch it in in their reality. So, but
in terms of that, I'm glad we got to see more this season of, I think her name's Pam, the HR lady.
Carol.
I thought Carol. Every episode she was on was fucking phenomenal.
Oh, she was hysterical.
She was very funny.
Killed it.
Yeah, she was really good. Well, it was like last season. I like Sue, the one that's
the one who's in the basement.
So she wasn't much in this one, but she did well. But
she has
Carol definitely had more.
Actually, Carol felt like the one person in the entire cast at all that was like a real person.
Well, she also had her own episode, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's what, but her being like the real person, that's why you see so much frustration from her all the time.
Yeah.
It's because she's like the one real person in this fucking messed up place. It's just like, God damn it.
Yeah, for sure.
Also,
the way she handles the testers relationship is so
oh my God.
Those two women keep assaulting her with questions, and like she's just like, I don't fucking care. You guys need this, not work related.
Yeah.
She was fantastic.
Derek Waters. He started the Drunk History series. He played Phil. He was that main coder.
Oh, the lead.
He had the longer hair and the beard. I thought he was hilarious.
I didn't recognize him. He was great.
Yeah. Just his delivery, and because I've seen these type of people that are like, he's like, this is what they do. So they're just straight like, no, you can't do it. It's just like no emotion. They're not mean to be that way. It's just it's like, no, you can't. And so I thought he was
no, man, I didn't just whip it together. This was like 3 teams working 24 hours a day for 7 weeks.
Yeah.
No, but you did great, man. Thanks for whipping it together.
Yeah. So yeah. But I thought the season ended well as well. I like that. They went to Casa Vega, which is like a very famous spot in the valley, and really left it open to really anything. And it's not it's still open. So I imagine they're probably either getting ready to green light. I don't know. I haven't heard of a season 3 being
I haven't either
announced.
I haven't either. Like, I assume there's one coming, but at the same time, like, if they didn't get one, I think it's a fine ending for the show if it had to be.
Yeah.
Well, but I bet you
I want to see more.
I mean, that's a smart way to end it, though. That's a totally smart way to end it.
Yeah. I'd love for it maybe to be over and for it to launch with the next game's title, like continue the show,
its own spinoff.
Yeah, it's like a spinoff, and
with the 2 main characters. That'd be hilarious.
It's all the same people.
Everybody.
What do they call it? Athena? Like the I don't know.
Hera.
Hera.
That's right.
Sorry.
But I really appreciated how different some of the episodes were altogether. Like that throwback episode,
so good.
Big Head.
Yeah.
That was a really
that one, and then the follow-up episode. The
episodes
are
oh my god,
strong.
F. Murray Abrams,
William Hurt. Oh my god.
Yeah, like F. Murray Abrams has always been kind of like not a joke, but like this total like comic relief character of just the fucking old dude that's gonna say this ridiculous ass shit, and then you get this throwback episode, and then him in the next episode, and you're like, oh, they should have taken this guy off the leash fucking last season at some point.
Yeah.
Like this is why they cast him.
I thought that was a great casting for the older Peter.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh damn, they nailed that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, anything else anyone wants to say about the last episode or this last season before we move on? I mean,
for me, the whole Danny Pudi storyline in this season felt forced.
Yeah, and it was kind of almost forgotten about. Like they brought his brother back again at one point for like a minute,
just on that phone call,
kind of close it.
Yeah.
And it didn't.
And
really
then him being taken away for securities fraud was just like so like it didn't land for me.
No,
it was in the same, but it matched the style of the season, or at least the way they're the absurdity and pageantry of a basic concept.
I mean, it gave him a good exit, right? He got a good exit, but other than that, that his whole storyline felt forced. Everything else I thought was great. I thought the episode was great. I really liked the way they ended it. I think, like Kevin said, if it ended there, it'd be a great ending. But I think it'll keep going. I think
I believe it will too. I hope it does.
Yeah,
I like how stuff worked out for the game testers. Like that'll be an interesting little storyline with one of them at Berkeley doing creative writing and one of them, in coding school there in the valley.
Well, it also leaves it open for characters like that not to come back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But like, I wonder if, because they were talking about sending that girl to coding school or whatever, if that's the case, if she would, if they would bring her with them, ultimately, because, the 2 of them were the ones that were going to send her to coding school, right? Like they were making the investment.
Oh, that whole scene when they told her that, when they were talking to her,
that was hilarious. When they weren't talking to her, but they were talking to her. She's like,
that reminded me of it was very Always Sunny, that whole scene.
Yeah.
Where they're talking about her like she wasn't in the room, and they're like, "Why are you still here?" Like it was just like
D. It's always D.
Yeah, exactly. Shut up, bird.
So, all right. Well, good. 1 down, 2 to go. Let's talk Loki real quick.
Best episode of the season.
Okay. I was going to say it's starting to lose me.
I was going to say the same thing.
I think, I mean, again, I'm gonna hang on. I'm really
there's only one more.
Yeah, there's only one more.
But I'm really concerned is that this is already flagged to be a multi-season show.
This is the only one that's going to be multiple seasons.
Yeah.
So far.
So what I may do is after this next episode, depending on what goes and what I'm cognitive of, I might have to go back and rewatch all the episodes again just to see, just to understand what the fuck is going on, knowing that it's going to be pertinent to the movies and everything fucking else. So it's almost like if you want to follow the Marvel line, you're gonna have to get through this. Is the way I'm feeling right now. If it ends off great, then it's like, okay, maybe I missed something or go rewatch it. But so far, I'm a little disappointed.
I don't think here's the thing. I don't think the story, the story behind the Loki, even the 2 seasons, is going to be as important as just them establishing these multiple timelines and how they can exist and where they sprout off, and that there's something kind of keeping them in check. Because I think that's what's going to wind up affecting us more in Phase 4 with the Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah, but you learned all of that
in
the first 5 minutes of the first episode.
Yeah, but I feel like there actually isn't anything keeping them in check anymore. I think the TVA, I still believe, and I felt like it from the first episode, is just that girl like holding shit together in her own way, and no one's telling her what to do anymore. I don't believe she's actually answering to anybody. And like I said, I felt like that from the beginning. This episode, I actually did enjoy this episode, at least more than the last one. I really actually kind of dug the old man Loki's moment there at the end. I like his kind of saving the day moment and then going out in style. I thought that was pretty cool. And much like the rest of the internet, for some dumb fuck reason, I really love Alligator Loki. I don't know why.
It's dumb as shit, but it's stupid, fucking adorably hilarious.
I was lukewarm on Alligator Loki until it bit off Vote Loki's hand.
Yes.
And then I was like, I'm in on Alligator Loki.
You're cool, buddy. But it was just a bit of fluff. It didn't serve a purpose, right? It was there to be a gag.
Yeah.
And even more so for the cast and crew, because if you follow anything they did, they had this doofy looking stuffed animal on set the whole time that was like the placeholder for the character. But yeah, I mean, this one had its moments, but not enough of them. Like I said, I do think it was better than the last episode. But I'm ready for this series to end in a way that makes the rest of it worthwhile. You know what I mean? They finally got to where they're trying to get to. So let's button it up in a good way so that the stuff that kind of wasn't great doesn't matter as much. Because if it doesn't end strong, then the stuff that wasn't as entertaining is that much worse, But I mean, I'm a big fan of Tom Hiddleston, so I mean, I like his work. It's just the series, I do like it, but it's not as good as I expected it to be. I would still put, Falcon and the Winter Soldier ahead of it, and even WandaVision.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No question so far.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of this episode. It's kind of just getting to a point where I'm ready for it to be over.
Yeah.
I know it's wishful thinking, but I thought this show was going to be more than what it is. I thought it was going to be him time hopping a little bit more frequently.
Kind of messing stuff up. Yeah.
I know it's stupid to be upset about something that isn't a thing. Like it's not that, and it won't ever be that. But it's like they kind of almost set that up a little bit in some of the trailers to make it seem like it was going to be more like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
for
it was that for
he's not really causing that much.
Yeah, it was that for like an episode. Like he met up with her at the end of episode 2, and then they just went off and did a couple of adventures in random like alien planets. But it wasn't
even impactful. Yeah, it wasn't even impactful to anybody. Like it was in a pocket dimension where they could do whatever they want, and it wouldn't affect anything. Specifically where they were.
Yeah. So I don't know. This show's been really just kind of meandering along for me at this point, and I'm just like, okay. Like, also the thing with him and her, it's just fucking weird. It's just fucking weird. It's basically yourself. Like, I can give you $1 million right now to guarantee you that if a female version of me walked into this room and I knew that's what she was, because he knows that, like, regardless of how hot she was, I'd be like, nope. Like, that's me. No, thank you. Like, that's weird as fuck. It's just so strange. Like, I don't get why they're pushing that. It's just,
I don't know, man. There's really nobody better than me. So I mean, that's me getting 10.
Well, that's debatable.
I may let me blow me, but that's about
it. Dude me or female me.
Maybe a quick handy. You know, but
I mean, that's not gay. That's not gay.
No, it's yourself. It's yourself.
Yeah, it's yourself.
It's like masturbating.
It's like giving yourself the night off.
Yeah,
that's right.
But I don't know.
It's like using your left hand.
The scene with all the Lokis down in the hideout didn't land for me. It was kind of cheesy, and I don't know, man. I can't even really remember too much of what happened because I kind of just checked out halfway through. And,
well, they're running from the nothing.
They're running from the smoke monster from Lost.
Yes.
Like, it's Big Brother. And that was the whole episode. And I was just like, okay. It's just funny to me, like, that whole alternate dimension. They're just like, oh, it's just a bunch of Lokis here because Lokis are the only ones that survive. And I'm just like, I feel like that's not true. Like, what if an alternative, like, Thanos was there? Like, he would for sure survive longer than Loki would.
The Thanos copter was there.
I did see the Thanos copter. There was some cool Easter eggs. There was the Dark Aster, which was Ronin's ship. And then there was a crashed shield helicarrier. And there's the Easter eggs were fun, but didn't say
there was a Thor in a jar too.
Yeah, that was
Frog
going
Thor.
down into the that was or Throg or whatever his name is. Yeah, man, this show, I'm excited that there's only one episode left. I'm kind of over it.
Like I said, if it ends really well,
I'm hoping it does.
Then it kind of redeems some of the show. If it ends poorly, then yeah, I definitely am going to have a different opinion of the whole show.
I don't know, man. It would take like a Chris Hemsworth cameo for me to like. That was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing too, is there was a lot of implication that
because of the implication
that there was going to be
the implication.
And a lot of speculation just from people like in the know that there could be alternate versions of other characters besides just Loki.
Yeah.
And you haven't seen anybody. Like there's no alternate Captain America somewhere. There's no alternate, of anybody.
We just saw alternate Thor. He was a frog.
Yeah. And he was buried underground for like 3 seconds if you weren't paying attention.
Wow. You're just fact checking.
Yeah, I didn't even see him. I heard about it.
Yeah.
There was a Mjolnir next to him as well.
Yeah. Yep.
You haven't seen this last episode, David?
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm far closer to Pete than the rest of you guys. I liked the episode. I thought it was good. But I'm not expecting much from this show. I mean, it's kind of a crazy, weird, wacky, they're doing whatever they want with it show. So I'm just kind of rolling with it. But I was reading a little bit more into some of it. My personal theory is that old Loki just told us that Tom Hiddleston's Loki's still alive. Because he dies, or he air quotes dies by creating an ultra realistic illusion that even Thanos buys, and then heads off to a planet where he stays by himself and does Loki shit on this planet, and they supposedly leave him alone there because he's on an isolated planet and can't do anything.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, he still created a branching timeline. Mm-hmm. And they didn't bother to clip him until he left the planet when he wasn't supposed to. So that to me tells me that the actual story arc of Loki doesn't end with the death of Thanos. And it's easy enough. We all think that it did. And then the video that they feed us in an earlier episode indicates that he did. But that's easily not true, right? They can just say, well, this is the end of the video, which is kind of how it rolled out. You just assume that he's dead. So I don't know. I think that there was some importance in that, and that it was really low so that they didn't it's there, but most people probably won't read anything into it. But I don't know. That's kind of what I read into it. I liked the episode. I didn't love it. I thought some of the Loki stuff didn't quite work. I did like that all the Lokis turned on each other, because of course they would turn on each other. That makes perfect damn sense.
I think, Alex, you might have liked that scene a little bit more had the music behind it not been this weird like 70s like action movie like fight in a disco kind of music.
No, the music doesn't bother me. And I actually really like the music in this show because it bounces back and forth between sort of a synthy, almost Ragnarok-y soundtrack, and then this really dramatic, almost like Inception sounding soundtrack. Like it goes back and forth. I think the soundtrack's actually pretty good throughout the entire show. I'm pleasantly surprised with that. I just didn't like the scene because it was just like haphazard and kind of silly and cheesy. And the fight scenes in this show have not been impressive. They're slow. They're not really coordinated very well. They're kind of goofy looking, and to just have a whole room of that happening at once, I was just like, ugh. Like it didn't land for me. But speaking of the music, I actually do like the music quite a bit. So there you go. That's one thing I like about the show.
What might make it better, I think, is just a better story, a more interesting, compelling story.
I just wanted him to time hop and just fuck with shit, or do random shit in random timelines, or like if he was hunting Sylvie, maybe he sees her at the end of episode 2, but then he chases her for a couple more episodes through like he ends up in the New York or something when the attack is happening, or just like I don't know, things when they said that it's going to be kind of like that, because they even said things like that, like it's going to be like an adventure where they hop around through different timelines, and this will be the most impactful show on the MCU overall. And I was like, cool, they're going to like jump around to places that matter, and they just haven't. And that's why I'm just like a little bit like, I mean, they kind of lied, like that they're not doing the things that they said they were going to do.
Well, they have been hopping around, but I think that it will be more impactful, and I think that will be in this next episode.
That's what I'm hoping.
I mean, it better
setting
be
up the next
like
big
this.
bad for the
better
entire
be.
thing.
Yeah,
I think
there's
this is
a
going
few
to be an
theories.
introduction. I think you guys are right that Kid Loki is going to be like the Kid Loki in the Young Avengers. I think you guys touched on that when they showed him briefly in the little.
Well, I know in the comics he is essentially the reincarnation of Loki, which is especially interesting because Loki right now in our main MCU timeline is dead, right?
Yeah.
Or we assume he's dead.
I'm pretty sure he's dead.
And so him being reincarnated in some form or fashion could lead to Kid Loki also.
Yeah. That'd be interesting.
And they could still use the same actor and just have it be a different version of Kid Loki.
He looks enough like a young Tom Hiddleston to pull that off, I think.
Yeah.
But another thing that really, like, I think it probably, this definitely had an effect on me, but something that really just off the bat just pissed me off immediately about this episode is one of the things I disliked the most about the last episode before this was that they showed Loki waking up at the end.
And then
like
they started the episode with
then they started it with the exact same scene. So I'm like, like, not only did you ruin the last episode with that, but you ruined this one with that, because you should have just had it here and here alone.
Yeah.
So we could have milled on it for a week. Like, I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, who the fuck?
All right, well then let's move on. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
We're all anticipating the last episode for various reasons, and we'll leave it at that. So, on to Black Widow, the latest offering from the MCU that has been delayed by, I don't know, a year and a half.
Yeah,
long
ass time.
So something that has been, I feel like the hype for it, obviously when it was first coming out, I feel like the hype for it was better now than it was when it was originally coming out. As far as the anticipation and excitement for it, because it was due to come out shortly after the pandemic hit, so they're already building it by that point. And I felt like people we just got off of Spider-Man as far as the first movie in phase 4 is it 4 or 5 4?
Yeah, I think Spider-Man was
three.
technically the end.
Yeah,
of
this is the kickoff to phase 4.
This is phase
okay
4.
So end of phase 3
and the TV shows.
Phase 4
yeah
and the TV shows. And so I think people are looking forward to it, but I think like the hype was just more for it this time around. So I saw it today. Who else saw it? Who saw it first? Do we know who saw it first?
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it. I think I saw it at 9:00 on Thursday.
I saw it 8:00 on Thursday.
Oh, go fuck yourself, Pete.
There you go.
I saw it at 7:55 on Thursday.
Yeah.
No.
7:59. Yeah. I just went on Friday. I didn't want to do the midnight thing, so I went like at noon on Friday.
And I saw it today at 1.
There you go.
So,
let's start with you since you're the freshest.
Okay. I really like this movie. I thought it was, for what it was, for the most part, because they didn't really introduce a ton of characters. They kind of just told a story as far as, you obviously learn more about Black Widow's backstory and that whole situation, how she was selected and became, a Black Widow. I liked the casting. I thought the story was good for what it was. It reminded me a bit of Winter Soldier as far as the filming of it and the way the action scenes went, and which there was a ton of action. So part of that, I did consciously go, I'm already bought in, so this all fits in terms of, this is, a little ridiculous in terms of how things occur. I mean, fucking fall out of the sky and you don't even have like a fucking scratch. So, but it's like, I'm in. Obviously, she's going to survive because this is, before everything.
Yeah.
It was, so it was interesting, again, just learning, more about her character and how she was and the other women and what the whole thing was about. At the same time, kind of thinking like, how do I remember hearing anything else about this earlier on in the movies or anything as far as like a reference to any of it? Because it seems like a pretty big organization to not have any and not be on the Avengers radar, especially since she was, they knew she was an Avenger and this and that. So, but no, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Again, I thought the action sequences were really good. I really liked David Harbour in his character as Alexi. I think he did a great job with it. I think he just stuck with it. I didn't know anything about the character beforehand, but it made sense as far as who he was and just how he was. Florence Pugh, I guess she's taken over for the Black Widow character going forward, it looks like. I thought she was great too. I really liked how they made her seem very equal to Scarlett Johansson's Natasha Romanoff in terms of just how they fight and interact and stuff, to really as a clean handoff where you would seemingly accept her. But the one thing that I was actually kind of impressed with was the fact that this is probably one of the first female-led movies that I've seen where it didn't seem like a female-led movie at all. Whereas opposed to like, say, the Ghostbusters remake or, Ocean's 8 or, even an original with it like Bridesmaids, it was made so much about, women leading the film and stuff like that, where I didn't hear anything about, if they did mention anything about that beforehand, I never heard it, but I was watching it going, it's like, there's like nothing but women in this movie. I didn't even notice until I was like, just randomly thought about it, and it didn't like ruin. I was like impressed with the fact that it kind of just shows like, that kind of that argument. It's like, look, if you make a good movie, it doesn't matter who is, who it's, who has the demographic. So I just thought that was impressive, at least in this one. I noticed that. So, but yeah, I liked it. It was I kind of like these movies where you obviously are going to probably have some closure within the movie itself, because you wouldn't expect there to be a sequel or unless it's part of the next one's the Avengers it bleeds into or something. But I like the after credit scene as well. I thought that was a nice tie-in and kind of really starts to set things up as far as who this new character is.
And this one was supposed to be before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like that's the other thing too. Is like this was
really
that scene. Yeah, that scene was intended to. Yeah,
I don't think it ruins it though.
No, I think it would have made the Falcon and the Winter Soldier scene way more impactful.
Yeah. I think
it would have made that scene much larger if you'd already seen this, because then you're like, you have no idea who the fuck she is. All you know is her name is Val. and she's she's some shadowy organization, and that's it. And then she shows up again in Falcon Winter Soldier with that, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So I think
but that was cool. But yeah, liked it. I probably liked it more than I imagine most people will. But I imagine most people will like this movie. I just think I like it. I put it a little higher on my scale than some others may. So that is my thoughts. We'll go counterclockwise from me. I'll start with David.
All right. I will say that I liked the film. I enjoyed it. It was a good time. That being said, for me, it's on the lower echelon of Marvel films. I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I thought that it's more of just a story than anything else because it doesn't really tie in to anything else. They've really just kind of flushed out the Budapest joke that's been running throughout the series. That's kind of really all this film does. It doesn't really have any influence in the series at all. You can, watch back. Most of the stuff in this one will have no relevance. So I just kind of felt that while I was watching it, and it just didn't have the impact, obviously, some of the last couple of films had. It's also in the past, right? So all of the really interesting stuff that's happening in the MCU right now is not happening in this film. And then for me, the villains were not good enough. You never really get a show of power, right? The only show of power of their quote unquote badass organization is in the beginning, and it's Florence Pugh, and then they steal her. So, right, and you get to see it on paper. Like they keep showing you, okay, here is all of our agents, and they're great, and they can do all these things. Yet, like was mentioned, no one in the Avengers has ever heard of them. They've never been mentioned in the series before. They're not on anyone's radar. And yet when you finally see their digs, they've got a $400 billion hover, hotel in
fucking Howl's Moving Castle. Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's clouds.
Yeah. Which makes no sense because everyone in this universe has a flying vehicle. How does no one ever spot this thing? So for me, that kind of stuff. And then ultimately the bad guy villain, he wasn't good enough. He wasn't good enough as the menacing bad guy for me. I think they fell flat on the villain side, in my opinion. I loved all the fight sequences. I thought the way that they choreographed it for the women to fight looked realistic, as opposed to a tiny little woman trying to box a big guy. The fact that they're using their lower body and they're throwing people and they're using momentum and other things, it was very cool.
I like how they had a lot of the same moves, which would make sense.
Yeah, because they were trained by the same people.
Yeah.
I also think that while Taskmaster was really cool, he just was not. She ultimately was not hardly used. She just kind of was menacing and was in the background, and ultimately wasn't that great. And I feel almost the same about Red Guardian. He's not a superhero. He's the comic relief of this film.
Yeah.
He's there for awkward scenes of dadhood. He's barely used as the strong man guy. Most of his stuff is his perceived rivalry with Captain America, which is super funny.
Isn't real.
Yeah. It's great. But other than that, he's not really used as a good guy or a bad guy. He's just kind of a set piece in the background. But ultimately, I thought it was a cool story. I would have liked this film maybe 6 years ago. It also felt like it had no teeth in it because of where it's placed, and we know how and when Natasha dies. So you knew that at no point was she in any danger in this film. So for me, that also lessens when you take the stakes away entirely. It takes it away for me for the film. So while I did enjoy it and I would recommend people see it, it's not going to be one that I watch regularly.
Right. Well, do you ever watch standalone Marvel films just randomly?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I usually just watch
my
it.
daughter and I just
start
finished.
It and go through.
We're one film short of finishing the whole thing again.
Okay, yeah, we're getting started
about 3 months ago, and we've only need to watch Ant-Man and Wasp. We skipped it, went Infinity War right to Endgame. Didn't stop for Ant-Man and Wasp. So we got to go back for that. But then other than that, we've now with Black Widow, we've seen everything. So
all right.
But yeah, I do watch them.
All right, Alex. You're next.
Okay.
Go. Talk. Say words.
You're like, time, man. You're done.
All right. Sorry, that's all the time we got. Pete. Yeah. Sorry, short on time. Kevin, go ahead.
I actually really enjoyed this film. I think it had some moments that were a little weaker, but I think especially at the beginning of this film, like the first third of this film, was extraordinarily strong. Like it was maybe one of my favorite openings / beginnings of like any Marvel movie. Like it hits really nicely, like, and you kind of know what's happening and who everyone is, but also not really. Like I think they did a really good job balancing like the familiar with like the unknown and making it exciting. And I don't know, I went into this honestly with pretty low expectations. Like the trailers didn't wow me. Like David said, I think this movie would have been more important to me if it came out maybe in between Infinity War and Endgame, or even before Infinity War in general, because that's when it's technically placed, is after Civil War and before Infinity War. So it definitely would have been maybe stronger overall had it come out there. At the same time, like, you know, we watched the Star Wars prequels before or after we saw 4, 5, and 6, and it's just like, okay, this, you know, it is what it is. And
do we need to talk about how the Star Wars prequels suck?
No, go.
I mean, you just did. You just did it. There you go.
Nailed it.
You filled our quota. They're awful. But I actually really thought this movie was. Well, let's go off on a tangent real quick and talk about this. No, I would put this probably in like the B tier of Marvel movies. It's not quite a Winter Soldier or an Infinity War or like an Iron Man 1 or something, but it's definitely up there for me. Like I can see myself randomly watching this at some point or another in the future. Though I will agree that Taskmaster was totally wasted. And for the few scenes that he/she, I mean, like we thought it was a he and then it wasn't. So like when she was doing these things, I was under the assumption that it was Tony Masters, who is Taskmaster in the comics. But like you see glimpses when she's doing like Bucky moves or T'Challa moves or other things, and I'm just like, cool. And then they'd cut away, and I was like, oh, like they just tease you the fuck out of me. Yeah, like I just needed a little more. Like when Taskmaster was fighting Red Guardian, I needed a little more of that. I needed a little more of the fight at the end when they were falling through the sky. Like I don't know, I just felt like Taskmaster didn't get to flex because he is really cool in the comics and she was cool in the movie. There just wasn't nearly enough of her. I don't know. I liked all the characters. It had, I don't know what it was about this line, but like for me, like it's probably the hardest I've laughed at any line in any Marvel movie. And it was just out of nowhere. It's at the very end when they're all kind of walking out of the wreckage and Natasha's like, are you two okay? And she's like, I'm clearly injured. Like, I don't know what it was about that line. It hit so hard for me. Just the way that she delivered it. I was just like, fuck yes. Like that was so funny. I thought the comedy was actually really strong in this movie. It was like in little bursts, but like when it was there, it was really great. Like how Red Guardian keeps trying to deliver these motivational speeches and no one's ever hearing them. Like that was a really good running gag. Like I thought that stuff was really strong. But yeah, this movie would have been stronger a few years ago for sure, before we knew about Natasha's fate. And, but I still think it was a very enjoyable movie with a few scenes of like, how the fuck did she survive that? Like that was the only time that it ever really pulled me out of it, when there was a number of times that happened. I was just like, you're dead for sure. But then she just get up and walk away, and I was like, okay.
The car accident, the whole fucking
the car accident down the subway. Yeah, her falling 5 stories and hitting 500 rafters on the way.
Well, she had a parachute on one of them.
She did have the parachute on the last one, because I was like, how is she gonna? And then I was like, okay, well, at least they did something here.
At least they explained that one.
At least that one's good. That one's good.
That,
even the very beginning, like when Taskmaster hits her car with an RPG and it flips like 100 times and like goes through a girder on a bridge, I was just like,
she had her seatbelt on. So.
She did.
Yeah, she's a safe driver.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. But really interestingly, one of the things that hit me the strongest, because it does actually matter for the future of the MCU, was it almost seems like they're setting up Yelena to be the antagonist in the Hawkeye series, because she's targeting Hawkeye.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that will be super fucking cool. So like that, I was like, that's a great post-credit scene. It was the only time in this movie they really could affect the entire future of the franchise. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that was a solid way to do it.
Do we know if when that series is taking place?
It's after Endgame.
It's after Endgame. Yeah.
Because he's mentoring Kate Bishop. Like that's that whole series. Mm-hmm. So it's like,
well, that would make sense. I mean, they don't have any, they don't have any plans for a sequel of this or anything, so that would be totally
super cool.
It has to be after Endgame, because she's at Natasha's grave, right? So
well, he meant the Hawkeye series. When is that taking place?
No, but I'm saying that she's not tasked to go after Hawkeye.
Yeah,
but yes, it is supposed to be at the same time, and I agree. I think that is the point they're setting her. She's gonna be, that bad guy for that. And that'd be just her, cool. Or does she have Walker with her?
Because they're all under Valentina's supervision essentially. So, I think that was a really cool setup for future MCU stuff. And it's exactly what I expected going into it. I was like, none of this movie technically matters, but hopefully it's fun. And then I'm sure the post-credit scene will set up something cool. And that's exactly what happened. And I was just like, cool, I'm fine with that. And that's how I felt. It was just, I enjoyed it. And I definitely will watch it again in the future.
Yeah, for sure. After it becomes free on Disney Plus, I'll probably watch it again.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But we plan on going through the MCU again anyway. So
I wonder how it would feel to obviously we've seen them all, but to watch this right after
where it belongs.
Yeah, I think it will have more impact. I do.
Yeah, for sure. I think it would too. I think, and I agree with you in the sense that if this movie came out earlier, but also if it propelled the story, meaning if stuff that came out of this, showed up in the next couple movies where right now it still could obviously, but we don't know that. Whereas had it been part of phase 3, for instance,
right,
I think it would have been more well received. But you would watch it right after Civil War, I think.
Yeah, you would. It's almost exactly right after that. Like Ross is coming after her right at the beginning. So
like how she cuts her hair is blonde at the end. So
that's what the vest in her hair is what travels to the next.
That's what I loved, is that the whole movie was just a fetch quest for her vest.
Yeah,
in Infinity War.
It did not hit me. I don't know why I missed it. Usually I'm really good at finding these little stupid details. Didn't hit me until the very end, and I'm like, that's her vest from Infinity War. Right when she,
I'm the same.
Yeah, I was
all of my kids, because I was there with all 3 of my boys. They're like, that's the vest from Infinity War. And I was like, the fuck? Like they got it instantly. Like I was like, Jesus
you're like,
Christ,
oh yeah, I totally knew that.
Yeah,
it's young boys all staring at the breasts of an attractive woman.
That's
they
fair.
Happen to be covered with a vest.
That's fair.
She had a vest.
That's right, kids. As you grow older, you just tune those things out.
Yeah.
All right, Pete.
I would actually just echo all the things that the 3 of you said.
Awesome. Let's move on. Kevin.
Jesus.
Yeah, I absolutely loved Florence Pugh in this. I thought
great.
She was just her comedic timing was perfect. She and Natasha playing off each other was great. The stuff with her and David Harbour was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like that whole scene when he's just talking to her in the room and, you smell. Like all that, everything it's just great. Rachel Weisz
really
was
touching.
Awesome.
It got really touching when he started singing that song. I was like, aw, that's really nice. I was actually moved a bit by that.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's basically, I agree with everything you guys have said. Like I really, really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I thought it was actually a really cool way to kick off Phase 4 because it was just a standalone story, really, which was kind of cool. Like you know what's going on. I'm not comparing it quality wise, but it was almost like the MCU's Rogue One, where it's you know stuff that's going on there, but it's its own story. It doesn't necessarily like you know fit into anything else. It does because the plans blah, 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 but it's the same thing. We know she's on the run, she turns herself in and she goes and rescues him from so we how it fits in, you know how it works, but it was good as its own thing. I do slightly disagree with the impactfulness of it because I felt like it was such a standalone story. Like because I knew she was dead going into it, I wasn't expecting like great revelations. I was like, it's going to be a straight actioner. We're not going to get a lot of extra sci-fi stuff. There's not going to be a lot of superhero stuff in this. It's just going to be almost like a Bourne Identity movie, if you will, something like that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of like the origin story of Yelena.
Yeah,
that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But also it's supposed to give, I think, a bit of closure. Like we know Natasha is dead.
Yeah.
But like her final task, essentially, not her final one, obviously, because she's still alive for like a bunch more years after this. But the final task that we're gonna see is her demolishing the Red Room, which is something that she thought she had already done. Yeah. Like she was under the impression that it was already gone, which is, by the way, why no one was looking for it, because no one thought it existed. But actually getting to see her kind of get that final bit of closure and pass the torch, I think that was a successful way to do a movie like this, where the stakes don't really matter that much, but from like an emotional impact point for the characters that you care about, I think they gave her enough to kind of send her off nicely. So I think that they succeeded there.
The next one will be an Iron Man closure with that kid that it's just a week where he's just working with them.
Oh, that kid from Iron Man 3?
Yeah.
Please no.
It's his origin story.
Yeah. It's gonna the next one's gonna be an origin story for Bucky with them just trying different metal arms. Like, what about this one? Yeah.
That's nice. That looks nice. Was that chrome? What is that? Brushed nickel. Very nice.
Gunmetal.
Go ahead, Pete.
No, that's really about it for me on that. I really, really enjoyed it. But you guys pretty much covered the way I felt about all of it. The whole, the holes and the issues I had were the same ones you guys did.
All right, cool.
I did feel maybe a little stronger than you guys that the Taskmaster was completely underutilized. I did not really it was the most unlikable thing of the movie to me.
Well, do you know about Taskmaster
a little bit
previous to this? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. And I just felt like it, because of the way they had her move when she wasn't fighting.
Yeah.
I felt like it was this very much almost like 80s movie robot.
I thought it was a robot at first. I thought that was going to be the twist.
I knew it was the daughter the whole time. As soon as they were like, "Okay, blew up the daughter," I was like, "Well, if he's alive, then of course she's alive too." Yeah. Like it made sense. So,
well, she was.
I wasn't surprised with that revelation in any way.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, that was it really. Just I did the costume on Taskmaster 2 was just fucking weird. That helmet was way too fucking big.
Well, the problem was the helmet was fine until she took it off, because there was a scene where she was standing, like it was kind of like a side shot, like profile shot, where she was standing with the helmet off looking at like Natasha, I think. And it was clearly her head digitally imposed onto the man in the suit's body. Yeah. And I was like, that looks weird. Like, I was like, that doesn't work, because it was so much smaller and the body's just like fucking huge. I was like, all right, well, that's fine, I guess. But yeah, it did take me out of it a little bit. I'm like, she wouldn't look like that in the suit. Like, I think it would have been more interesting if Taskmaster showed up and right away you could tell from the form, you're like, oh, that's a chick.
Woman. Yeah.
Like, that's like, who is that? Like that would have been
basically, yeah. I felt like if you were going to go that way and kind of gender bend it, if you will, in that direction, then just fucking do it.
Yeah. Just dedicate.
Don't make me think it's a man. I'm cool if it's a fucking girl. Sweet.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie. And that was, I think it was you, Mike, that said it. That was one thing I loved too, that you didn't, it didn't feel out of place that this was a movie full of women.
Yeah.
Like leading the whole time. Like it wasn't like something that like all of a sudden I was like, oh wow, yeah, it's representation. Like it was just a dope ass action movie.
It's not even close to how I sound.
I thought it was pretty accurate. Good job, Pete.
Spot on.
All right, Kevin.
Yeah.
Whoa, see? You just did it again.
In stereo. It's crazy. Yeah, no, I I generally feel the same way. I mean, I so often when Florence Pugh was talking, and I loved her character, but she reminded me a lot of Villanelle from what's the one with Sandra Oh?
Killing Eve.
Yeah. A lot of her delivery, even her accent reminded me a lot of that character, and the way she was kind of nonchalant about stuff. Which isn't a bad thing. I fucking love that character too. I loved how she gave her shit about how she lands all the time and flips her hair up.
Yeah,
that's fucking funny. And then she does it, and she's
awesome.
like, and she does it herself, and she's like, ugh.
She's like,
yeah.
Like that's not.
Like they didn't kill that joke. They played it out just enough.
All the running gags were perfectly spaced, and like they had the right amount of repetition. Like I said, the Red Guardian speeches, the posing, the pockets in the vest, like all that stuff was really nicely and evenly spaced and paced. I was just like, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. The only kind of issue that I might have is that you've got a buttload of widows. You've got Taskmaster, you've got Rachel Weisz's character, and you've got Red Guardian. You've got all these characters out there that should have been doing something in some form of fashion. I mean, unless they all got snapped, which would make sense. I mean, you could kind of play that part off, but at some point they should be doing something. So for them to just disappear and us to never talk about them again would be unfortunate.
To be fair, we wouldn't know anything about them until after Endgame anyway.
Right.
Well, they definitely like went to hide from Ross. Like that was their immediate goal. So at least for a while they'll be in the wind. But I agree that like probably should have heard something about these people.
Or at the same time, I don't mind not hearing about them now. It's just I would be disappointed if they just faded away.
Well, they just have free thought. I mean, they're free, so I mean, it's not like they're gonna instantly go into being paid assassins unless Val. Val would probably track them down and.
But I mean, you're looking at depending on how you want to look at it, a couple thousand to at least a few hundred of like the most lethally trained assassins on the planet, and they're just out there now. They've just come out of some weird like mind control psychosis. And
they haven't necessarily
women running around. That sounds really fantastic.
I mean, that's the other thing too, is that
Pillars,
she downloaded their names, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're all okay. So she's got a list of all these women across the globe that have been affected by this program, but there's no hint at what she's going to do with that or what somebody else is going to do with that. Right. So there's some storylines left kind of hanging. Which is fine. I mean, you can't answer everything and not everything's going to go on. I just think it would be a disappointment a little bit if they don't bring these characters back at some point, or at least talk about them a few times, because they were charismatic.
I mean, they could even have like, Shield have that disc or whatever she copied it onto by this point, given the way the storyline goes right in. So you don't know what, but that could be the key of how it introduces that into the story of whatever. It's like, oh yeah, those are those chicks, and
like I could almost see them doing a Disney Plus series just called The Widows. And they go out and
Taskmaster and the Widows coming to Disney Plus in June.
It's animated.
What if coming out looks pretty cool.
What if it's dope. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I really enjoyed the movie. My boys all liked it, which is another thing that's impressive. If you really are doing an entirely female-led movie, that 3 boys 13 and under don't give a shit that it's just all girls, right? Because boys
but
instinctively
they are pretty.
But I mean, boys instinctively are like, oh, I don't want to watch that if it's all girls, right? Like it's just kind of built into them that it's not okay if it's girls, if you're a boy.
Girls
and
they didn't
bother.
Cooties.
Exactly.
No, they were all very easy on the eyes, but I think one of the things I did like about this is they didn't like hypersexualize any woman in this movie at all. Yeah. Like there was no play.
Which is interesting that they've never, I mean, I'm sure that was probably something she never wanted, but in the comics, like Widow is like a femme fatale. Like she uses her sexuality to help infiltrate and do other shit. And they've never played her like that, minus that one scene in the beginning of the Avengers where she's in that little black dress.
Yeah.
After that, it like, and a little bit in Iron Man 2, like she's
Iron Man 2 toys with it,
like she's secretary
there, but
and she just came out like they just I don't know if it was a new interview or not, but it just came out that she was a little disappointed in how sexualized the character was in Iron Man 2.
Yeah,
and she wished they had done that. But I mean, that is what she was in the comics, what she was trained to do. But yeah, that was not necessary at any point in the MCU for her to be that character.
Yeah, I agree. I never missed it. I thought that what she did with the character was awesome. Yeah.
I think we talked about it too. I liked the dude in the bottom right of your picture there too.
Like the
Handmaid's Tale. Yeah.
The one who gave him planes and helicopters and everything.
QT Fagbending? I don't know.
Yeah, it's got a weird name.
FAGBNLE. Yeah, Mason. His name was Mason in the movie.
Yeah, he was very likable.
Cool.
Yeah, it was fun. I want to watch more movies filmed in Norway because holy shit, that place is gorgeous. I mean, I knew that already because I've seen pictures, but just her driving around that town, I'm like, is the whole movie this? Because that's fine. It's just digital tourism at this point.
Yeah. So
David, you're muted.
David's muted.
David, you're muted.
I know, but now my Frozen joke's not going to land.
Oh, good. Why would you tell a Frozen joke? You're on my team with this. You don't like it.
Oh, I totally am, but you're the one talking about how much you love Norway right now, so it had to...
Norway's not... Frozen's not there. It's in some made-up bullshit place.
In Norway.
Nah. It's in Arendelle or whatever the fuck, right?
Yeah, that's in
Arendelle, Norway.
Nah.
Dumbass.
It's in Arendelle, bitches. That's where it is.
It's in wherever it is, it's beautiful. It is a nice place. So, I guess all around, Black Widow, thumbs up.
I mean, I still, even though I was critical, I still give it a thumbs up. I like the movie a lot.
Okay, well then I think we should take a quick break.